What's up, everybody? Welcome back. FPL Fantasy. Guess what time it is? FPL has not launched yet, but we have fixtures, so it's like the second best thing, I guess, really. Now we can start planning and putting together all those millions of drafts just to be blown up exactly when the game launches and all the prices are completely off from what we expected. Before we get into those fixtures, I got my man here, Doc. Doc, how are you feeling?
Hey Joe, and what's up, guys? This is Doctor again, and welcome to another episode of the FPL Fantasy. Let's talk about those fixtures. They are announced 22-23 season, is it? It's gonna start soon, so let's get into this.
All right, so we are actually uh, using a graphic from at Holly Shand on Twitter. Make sure to give her a follow. Really nice graphic, and it actually goes out to 8 game weeks, but not to overload everyone and make this a 6-hour video, we decided to knock it down to 6 game weeks for us. So I really appreciate these type of graphics because we didn't have time to necessarily throw one together, and even if we did, I don't know, Holly made a pretty sweet graphic, so I'm not sure that we could even compete with that in the first place. Doc, anything that sticks out to you on the fixtures, the FDR, anything?
Before doing that, shout out Holly. She's one of the legends, goats of the FPL community. So if you haven't followed her yet, follow her, drop a like on her tweet and on the FDR. I have two words for you regarding the fixtures, Joe. Captain Salah. Fulham away, opening day, and then followed by Crystal Palace, Man United away. I hope we get better this season. Bournemouth at home, Newcastle at home, Everton away. The starting six are quite good. So I expect almost everybody to go for Salah, Trent, and a third player from Liverpool. I always say that you need to have a spine as a team, and the spine will include Trent and Salah, depending on the prices, of course. And we're talking hypothetically, but I hope I pronounced that correctly. But yeah, I think Salah will be the captain. Majority of the people will captain him in game week 1.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty accurate prediction because, I mean, we saw how Salah started the season last season, and I would say he arguably has a better fixture run at the beginning of this season. I mean, his hardest game is probably game week 2 against Crystal Palace. From what we saw, Crystal Palace is always a tough defense, and they always play really well. I mean, I wouldn't expect like a massive haul from Salah in that game week, but all the rest, I could definitely see it happening, especially if United come out with the same defense that they had last year. Who knows? They do have a new coach. They get a little bit of a rest and the new coach bump, and they're, I guess, attempting to bring in players. At least that's what it seems like. I don't think anything has been signed and sealed yet. So we'll have to see kind of how they come out. But yeah, I would agree. Salah, Trent, and your third player, bring them in. It's just a good base already, and probably captain Salah unless you're really trying to go crazy at the beginning of the season.
Moving from here, basically, I always mention that you need to have the proper structure when it comes to FPL. I think once you go Salah and Trent, you can afford to have a decent team. You can afford one more premium, that's about it. And it's always going to be between Son, Kane, and Haaland. Looking at the fixture ticker, probably Haaland will be in everybody's team as well. If you want to go different, I don't blame you. Southampton at home, if they similar to United, if they defend similarly as they did last season, I think Kane and Son will probably hold in the first game week. But you have kind of the long-term fixtures, on Haaland's side. So I expect many people will start with Salah and Haaland.
Yeah, I think the Salah Haaland will be a very common matchup. If I was to go for a Spurs attacker, my guy would be Son. I've talked about it nonstop. The issue that I have, and everybody will say it doesn't mean anything, is Kane does not start the season historically well. He usually takes anywhere from a month to 2 months, and last year was even worse because he didn't want to be there for 3/4 of the season. But yes, I understand historically you can't just be like, oh, Kane will always suck at the beginning of the season, because in the past he has. But when he's done it for, I don't know how many seasons he's been in the league, 25 seasons it feels like, and he's always had a bad start, I would probably steer clear of Kane at least for game week 1 and see what type of Harry Kane comes out of the gate. Going into the Spurs a little bit more, I think they're going to actually have a really interesting defensive lineup too. And yeah, they have Chelsea, but after that, that's really their only kind of tough fixture that they have in that first 6. Kind of a similar look to what Liverpool have. I would obviously take a Liverpool defender over a Spurs, but I think if you wanted to bring in a Spurs defender, or even get a little crazy this year and bring in a 5.5 goalkeeper, Lloris, he's out there, he's waiting, and I think he was the second highest scoring goalkeeper last year in FPL behind Ederson. So it might be worth the grab there. And City, yeah, like you said, they have a great fixture run. Haaland will probably be in 60% of the teams at the get-go. And then the other City assets are going to be great pickups too. Cancelo, he's going to be in everybody's team also because he just performs, and he's much more of a midfielder than a defender, but he gets clean sheets too.
Yeah. And speaking of goalkeepers, it's a perfect segue because there is this kind of rotation duo that we can have. If they come at 4.5, we have Brighton and Brentford. They rotate very nicely defensively at the beginning of the season, so you can kind of have Leicester, Newcastle. If you look at the kind of the fixture like this, um, Fulham, Leeds, Crystal Palace, Leeds again. So if you have this rotation between Raya, the goalkeeper of Brentford, who ended the season quite well, I might be a bit worried about second season syndrome for a promoted team. I don't know if that's a thing, but it's possibly a thing. But usually, teams who are promoted come with the enthusiasm and everything to the new league and play well, and then all of a sudden. But Brentford ended the season quite well. Raya was injured. They became bad defensively, and once he came back, they played well again. Sanchez was in everybody's team last season in the beginning, so I can see it happening. So if you want a rotating goalkeeper where you play one and bench the other at 4.5 if they come, I think Brighton and Brentford are a good shout.
Yeah, gone too soon, my buddy Ben Foster. I want to bring him in at 4 million and just play him the whole year. The one thing that I'll say between Brighton and Brentford, keep in mind Brentford really turned around, and not specifically because, but at the same time that they had picked up Eriksen. And Eriksen kind of was a little bit of a monster, took a little bit of the pressure off of that back line because teams were worried about Eriksen. Now, I don't think that is going to completely destroy their defense. I think it was a good buffer to kind of let their defense get fully acclimated to what the Premier League is and kind of see what it takes to make their job easier on the defensive side of things. So that's just one thing that I wanted to mention, but I still like the Brentford goalkeeper and their defensive assets. I think they really have interesting dynamic and chemistry, and they can definitely score points, as we saw with Jansen and I forget what the other guy's name was. Pinnock, yeah. They were scoring points right at defense for us, and I don't think you can shy away from it, but yes, second season syndrome, does tend to be a thing more times than not.
Regarding that, also we have Brighton that Bissoma left them, and Bissoma is a huge asset in the midfield that helped them keep clean sheets. So would that affect them? I would worry a bit more if Potter leaves Brighton because it's kind of the system that's working for Brighton. So Sanchez, you can have him in your team in the beginning and see how it goes in case they do well again. But if Potter leaves, I might consider not going with Sanchez as well. One thing I want to add is it's unfortunate because the newly promoted teams, Fulham and Bournemouth, are at the bottom of the ticker. They have the worst fixtures to start with. So we always like to kind of punt on new promoted teams, find this kind of bargain, but it will be unlikely this season. Plus, we are looking at 6 game weeks ticker. Many people usually wildcard by game week 3. So it's possible that people just target 3 game weeks and then just wildcard. So it's just initial thoughts, initial reaction. But when you change the ticker to 3 game weeks, you have a different story. So, and a lot of people kind of will have Kane in the first game week as a kind of placeholder and then move him on to Haaland when Haaland plays Bournemouth at home in game week 2. So there's a lot of tinkering to come. We will tinker a lot once the game launches, but there are a couple of strategies to be followed, which we will get into in future episodes once we get the prices, once the game launches. But those are initial thoughts, yes.
Yeah, and I can actually attest to the whole game week 3 wildcard thing because in my last couple seasons that I played and just reflecting on our last season, if you guys watched our season review, I actually used my game week or my wildcard in game week 3 because just the team that I had developed was doing just nothing. They were good players, but at the time they weren't necessarily doing much of anything. So I threw the wild card down, played it, and just kept moving up the ranks from there. So even though you might go on Twitter, you might watch YouTube, whatever, wherever you get your FPL content, they might be saying, if you had a bad start, make a couple adjustments, you should wildcard in 7 or 8. Just because that's the advice doesn't necessarily mean that is the best advice for your current situation. For me, it turned out that my decision to wildcard in game week 3 really just took me up the ranks. So yeah, I think if you're looking at it on a 3 game week sample, it does kind of change the focus a little bit. But I think it's probably better to look at it anywhere from a 4 to a 6 game week. Adjust your team as you go throughout those initial couple game weeks. Don't be afraid to fire off the wild card chip. Don't be afraid to maybe take a point or two here or there to make adjustments to your team that is going to get you points and also maybe get you a little bit of team value.
And also, probably official FPL will introduce new chips, remove new chips, and I would expect something after the World Cup. So if we get 2 wild cards and unlimited transfers after the World Cup, which is technically a 3rd wild card, it changes the dynamic of the game and it changes the plans, right? So you have an extra wild card technically, so you can use it a bit earlier. Let's see how it goes. Also, I wanted to mention that I'm very interested to see the prices of Arsenal assets. They are at the top of the ticker, so Saka, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Odegaard. So there are so many options that we can go for with those fixtures. I'm very interested to see the prices of Arsenal because if you think of the spine now, while we are talking, it's just like Haaland, Saka, Salah, Trent, Cancelo, Sanchez, Raya. So we already have a spine of a team and then you play around. So it's very interesting to see those fixtures, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is one of the best parts about FPL. You get the fixtures and then you create this dream team, this spine, and then you get into the game and it's like, oh, I'm at 145 million. Okay, I only need to shave 45 million off my team. Great. I don't want to. So maybe FPL will be generous and give us an extra 50 million this year. That would be nice, right?
Yeah, but then they will compensate with the prices. Also, last thing I want to mention is we have game week 6, and I tweeted this game week 6, beautiful footballing game week because it's Arsenal playing Manchester United that game week, Liverpool are playing Everton in the Merseyside derby, and West Ham are playing Chelsea in a London derby. So we have a nice footballing game week. I'm looking forward to that game week.
I'm ready for the game to start. Let's do this.
Let's get it, yeah.
Well, everybody, we kind of did a little bit of a brief overview and some thoughts on building a team and analyzing a couple fixtures here. I hope that helped a little bit, kind of clarified some of the plans maybe once the game actually launches. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, follow us on Twitter. We'll follow back. Love to get interaction and interact with the community. So let us know, what do you think about these fixtures and what teams are you looking at? And aside from the good old spine of FPL, Salah, Saka, Pollen, and so on, what are some players that you're looking at that you think might be able to give you a little extra space so you can bring in 3 or maybe 4 if you include the defender premium guys? Let us know. Doc, anything you'd like to say?
If you haven't yet, drop a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.
All right, we'll see you, everybody. Peace.